Alright guys, probably not my usual machine shop video. We're going to be doing a little repair on my veranda. It's a little problem that sort of popped up probably just after I built it, which was, oh gosh, nearly 10 years ago now. This veranda I built myself. It's done out of square hollow and rectangular hollow sections, and I actually laid this out and welded it all up on my front driveway, which was fairly level, so it was a good reference to work from. But the issue that I've got is the handrail at the front. It's got quite a significant bow in it, and there has been some movement at ground level which has forced all of this to come up, and it's quite noticeable, and I hate looking at it. So we're going to make a little change to that. We're going to do a little modification to sort that little problem out. So we'll hop down the front, we'll have a look at what's going on, and show you how I think I'm going to go about fixing this. Not as easy as you think it is. Alright, so you can sort of see the bow that's in this handrail. If I take this end column or end post as my 0, I'm sitting up by about 10 mil. I'm sitting up by about 5 mil. Down the end I'm sitting down by about 10 mil. So I've got a 10 mil difference between here and here. Right, so we're down here at the base, and the way I've made this with the joist, I've boxed this right in. This is going to be very difficult to remove the post, cut a section off the bottom, elongate the holes and drop it back down again. So what I'm going to do to shorten this one up is I'm actually going to make up a guide that's going to fit around the post that I can get a nice square cut with. I'm going to cut that post in half. So we're going to cut it in half and remove around about 10 mil off this one. I'm going to take about 5 mil off this one. I'll show you what we're going to do with the end post. We're going to put a packer underneath that. So as I said, this post sits down about 10 millimeters. I'm going to put a 5 mil packer underneath here just to raise that up, and you won't see that packer the way it is at eye level. You won't pick that at all, and that'll reduce the drop from this end to that end to 5 millimeters. Same with this post. What we're going to have to do, I'll put the guide in place, we'll then cut that off. I'll put that into my circular saw, and or compound saw I should say, and we'll take a 5 mil whisk off that and we'll put it back down. What I'm going to do, dead smack in the middle of each of these squares, so the post square and what's remaining on the ground, I'm going to pop a hole in for a dowel, and then we'll join the two together and look at using an araldite top epoxy to glue them up. And hopefully that'll be enough. The fortunate thing I've got is that these posts, the way that I've done the decking, are a keyed in fit, and it's a very tight keyed in fit, so it's actually going to hold the post extremely well. Any side loads on that aren't going to affect the joint at all, as I said, because it's well and truly supported here, and the barge plank sits up here, and that also encapsulates it, so it's going to be truly encapsulated all the way around, dowel in the middle, and the two halves epoxy together, so it's going to be quite a strong joint. Alright, well, let's get this this guide set up for the saw to get it nice and square. I've got to make sure I do a nice square cut across here, and I think putting some sort of guide on here is going to be the way to go. Alright guys, we'll be back in a tick. Slow and steady, slow and steady. So we're just using the tops of the structure here as a guide. Important not to rush this sort of thing, just take your time, have a breather, concentrate on it all the time. Alright, we're through. Pretty happy with that. That's come out really nice. So what I've done, I've just put a timber chock underneath there just to hold it up off the blade while it came through. Alright, I'll get this unscrewed from the brackets, and we'll get this post out and we'll nip a little bit of length off it. Alright guys, so what I've done is I've just used my grinder with a flapper wheel on it and using a Sharpie marker, just marking over the top and just taking off what I need to get that post squared up in all directions. So I'm really happy with where that post is sitting now. I am going to put some dowels in here, possibly 2 dowels, 2 half-inch ones. I'll turn those up, we'll fit them in, and then we'll spot them through to the post, and then we'll go ahead and drill those through, probably in the Bridgeport, to get it nice and square. I've changed my mind on the wood glue. I'm going to go for a polyurethane style wood glue instead of the epoxy styles. Looking at some specifications and some YouTube videos, that water-based polyurethane style glue is going to be a lot better on the end grain than what an epoxy will. I'll probably epoxy the dowels into place. I'm going to make steel dowels actually, so get them up as far as I can into the post, and we'll see how that's going to look. Alright guys, I've made up a fairly simple drilling jig, and I've got a centre finder, just a bit of rod that I've machined down to fit inside the hole. It's going to be the sized hole to fit the dowel into place, and I could line that centre point up on the crosshairs and then just spot it through. So this hole has been drilled to suit just under 12mm, because it will drill slightly oversized, and all clamped into position, so hopefully we'll get a nice square hole. I don't know about you guys, but trying to drill a hole freehand and get it dead square and plumb, I find very, very difficult. So these little types of jigs make life a little bit easier. You can see I've packed it up just a little bit on the sides there, just to enable so I can get that point engaging properly into the RHS, or SHS as it is, nice and firmly. So we can get that lined up and get that hole in the right spot. Alright, well, let's get set up, and we'll put the first hole in, then we'll move it along, and then we'll drill the second hole. Alright, let's see how we go. We've just hit a nail. It's alright, we've got a pretty good amount of depth onto that. Alright, we'll get that off and we'll get set up and we'll drill the next one. Righto, second hole all lined up. I do use the bubble to get it squared or level in all directions before we drill the hole. Right guys, what I've done is I've just created a fence around the post. Now I've just got there's an old off-cut post I had from years ago when I built the veranda. And as we talked about, I've got the cutouts here that are very tight keyed in there. So I'm using that as a guide to make sure the post is in the right spot. Alright, we've got our holes pre-drilled into our stump that's left here, and we've got our centre that we've made up, which is a neat fit into the hole. That will then allow me to fit the post into place, square it up, give it a thump, and that marks it. Then we'll move the centre to the next hole and do the same thing again. Alright guys, so I've just done the second mark. Let's get a pair of pliers and we'll pull that out. And there she comes. So we have a look on the end. We've got two very nice pot marks that I can use to locate the drill up inside. Now what I'm going to use for stud material is this 12mm stainless M12 stainless steel rod. I've selected this because with the grooves where the threads are, it's going to make it nice for the epoxy glue to key into. And we're also going to rough up the insides of these holes. So just with a small drill, just go around a number of times just to put some keyholes into that for the epoxy to key into as well. So I think that'll give a very strong joint with these two stainless steel all threads dowels made up. Alright guys, so we've got our centre mounted in our collet, and I've got that pretty spot on The post I've got pushed up against the tenons, and we've got that clamped down nice and hard so that's not going to go anywhere, and it's dead square parallel to the action of the drill. Alright, we've got that spot on. I've zeroed everything out, and we'll get the drill in here and we'll get started. Okay, done. We'll do the same thing. We'll set up and do the second hole, put our centering, line it all up, and then drill through. And hopefully everything's going to line up. What I can do, if things are a little bit out, I can open the hole up in the stud that's left on the site there. We can open that up a little bit to give us a little bit more wiggle room for that stud to get these lined up. But I'm hoping we're going to be pretty spot on. Anyway, we'll find out in a tick. Alright, well, the wind's blowing away. Let's just see how this is all going to go together. So I've cut up a couple of these at 190 long, and we're going to give this a go for the first time. So let's see how close we are. As I said, if we're out a little bit, we can open them up, the holes up a little bit, give us a bit more wiggle room. A bit trying to do this blind. Oh, here we go. Got one fitting in, I think. Aha. How about that? Perfect. Let's see how we look for spot on. Just to come across just a tad bit. Oh gosh, that's pretty close. Well, I'm wrapped with that. That's going to make that a pretty decent joint. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I taking this off the bottom and not off up the top, and then lowering the handrail down that way? Well, I'll show you in a little while why I've done it this way, and it's all about the aesthetics and lines, and show you why we've done that in a little while. Alright, well, it's Sunday. I spent most of the day out with family and friends for lunch and drinks, so we haven't got an awful lot done today. I've got to duck down to a supplier in Geelong tomorrow after work to pick up some glue called Titebond, which is ideal for end grain gluing, and it locks in the cellulose arrangement of the two halves in with the glue. Apparently, it's the best glue around for doing or working or gluing on end grains. As I said, with those stainless steel rods in there, it's going to be a very, very solid arrangement. And as I said, we've got the keyed boards that go around this as well. That's going to further add some belts and braces to it. Alright guys, well, I'm going to pack it in now. It's starting to get a little bit late, but I'm wrapped with what I've got to today. That's fantastic. Alright guys, we'll see you soon. Now, as I mentioned, I want to get some keen points into here for the epoxy, so just using a drill. Just to key it in. I thought it might be worthwhile just showing the setup that I've done, or that I use for the posts for drilling those holes in axially. And you can see I've rotated the turret around to give me a little bit more room on the table, and I've also got it extended out almost to its full limit. Certainly go around an awful lot further, but you can just sort of see how universal these Bridgeports are to get those awkward jobs set up, and I've used this particular mill in all sorts of configurations to get the job done, and yeah, they're a beautiful design. Alright guys, I thought that was worthwhile pointing out just how how universal that Bridgeport mill is to do this type of work, just when you need that extra room on the table. Alright guys, I've been tossing up what's the best approach to get the studs glued in and also glue the end grain together. And as I mentioned before, that polyurethane is the best way to go for the end grain rather than epoxy. And from what I've researched, a product called Titebond was the best way to go. Now, I spoke with the agent that sells this stuff here in Geelong, and he said that you'd be better off using glue polyurethane, stud in place, and also glue the end grain together. He's used this stuff extensively, he says, and he says it's wonderful stuff to work with. So gives a very strong bond, and he's done his own little tests and found out that he snapped the timber away before he actually broke the bond with the glue. Anyway, I'm going to do my own little test here. I've got a bit of stud that I've cut, drilled, and we've fitted inside, and we'll let that sit for 4 hours, and we'll just see how good this stuff really is. As a matter of fact, I reckon you can actually see that bubbling up out of there now, so that is expanding, definitely is expanding, because that has come up out of the hole. All right, well, we'll leave that for 4 hours, and we'll see what sort of a result we get and see how good it is. So we'll give it the hammer test and see if we can't get it out. All right, guys, we'll be back when she's gone off. Okay, well, it's been just over 4 hours. I did wipe this off a bit as it expanded, but oh, geez, it did expand. It's like the polyurethane you see that expands underneath the slabs to lift them. But yeah, it's really filled up all the gap, totally jammed it in nice and hard. Well, it's going to take it over the vise, and we'll give it a bit of thumping, and we'll see if it moves, eh? All right, please excuse my very messy desk here at the moment, or workbench. I've got an awful lot that I've been trying to do. Right, let's see what happens. Well, I'll tell you what, that was crap, wasn't it? I gave that the 4 hours to go off, and yeah, not very impressed with that. Not very impressed at all. I'm glad I did that little test, because that was just shocking. Alright, I'm going to try it with some epoxy next, and we'll see how that goes, eh? Alright guys, so I tried a polyurethane glue to try and hold this stud in place. As you can see there, the polyurethane did expand quite a lot, but it pulled out very easily. So we've got the fiberglass resin in here now. Now I've used this fiberglass resin for chem setting or putting studs into concrete for my machines here at home, and when I've had to move them, the resin has tended to creep out underneath the plate, and it has been absolutely shocking to try and get that plate away from that resin once it's bonded on. So I'm expecting this to be a little bit better. Anyway, we'll put it in, we'll give it the hammer test, and we'll see if we can move it. Let's see what happens. There we go. A bit tighter again. Put that as tight as I can get that. Well, that has not moved, not one little bit. So that's the way I'm going to go with the fiberglass resin. That is just, geez, it's locked in there hard. That's not going anywhere. All right, I'm very happy with that. I've actually bent the rod a little bit too, trying to get that out. But as I said, I tried the polyurethane glue, which I was told would be the best way to glue these studs into timber. But yeah, it failed miserably. I won't tell you what the brand was. It was a very expensive glue. But the fiberglass resin, geez, that's done the job. All right, guys, we'll get set up for the next stage, and that is getting these studs into place, set off, and then we'll get this post together. All right, let's see. Before I do go, I'll try this one more time. I've screwed a nut on here, so at least it's going to jam it up against the top of the jaws there. I'm going to try and get this off. That's not going to move. Alright, I'm happy with that. Righto, I've just put the fiberglass resin into the holes and put the studs in, and we've got them filled up quite nicely. We'll let that go off overnight, and we'll get ready to put the two parts together. A bit of a dribble down the side there, but I'll have to clean that up with a... Just to let you know, that's the product that I'm using. It's just a standard fiberglass resin I get down at my my local Bunnings store, and I use this on quite a lot of things. As I said, I've used them for putting anchors in for machinery, and yeah, once it's in, you cannot get it out of the concrete. So yeah, very robust. So I'm hoping I'll get the same effect with the wood. I think I will. Alright guys, I'm going to do a little test on some end grain glues here and find out which is going to be the best way to go. So I've got some of the fiberglass resin mixed up, and I've got this Titebond, which the guy down at the tool shop was telling me is probably the best stuff available for end grain. I have looked it up on the internet, and it's got some rave reviews. So we'll see how this performs. It's waterproofed. It's a PVA style glue, I think, and we'll see how that performs. So what I've done is I've got a length of timber, and I've just cut it into two spots. We can apply the resin to one side, the Titebond to the other side, clamp it up, and then we can apply a weight and see which one fails first. I know it's a bit of a rough old test, but at least it'll give me a bit of an idea of which is the best way to go for adhering this post back onto the stump. Right, let's get the resin on first. I'll tell you what we might do. We might do the Titebond first, I think. It's not going to run as much as what the resin is. So I'll open the cap. Alright, there we go. Now I'm glad I did this test with the stubs, with the all thread studs that I put in there. If I had gone with that polyurethane glue, that would have been a disaster. And to get the resin bonded ones out, I'd basically have to smash the wood out to have any chance of even getting those studs out. It was there for keeps. I still reckon the resin's going to be the best, but I'll find out. The wood's well and truly seasoned out there. It's been up there for about 10 years, so I don't expect it's going to be moving too much more, which is always an issue with glues if the wood's not stable. Alright, I'll leave that for 24 hours, and then I'll see which one's going to give us the best result. I won't worry about wiping the excess off. It's not going to worry for this little test. And whichever one is the best performer is the one that I'm going to use. So we'll see how good this Titebond is, see if it's as good as they say it is. And as I said, comparing to the fiberglass resin. Alright guys, we'll see you in about 24 hours, and we'll see how we go. Alright, that's all glued up. That's an hour short of 24 hours. So what I'm going to do is set this up on some stands, and we'll start putting some weights on, and we'll see how they go. We'll see which one performs the best. Alright, we'll get that set up, and let's start loading it up. Alright, first one. This weighs quite a bit. Alright. That's the resin that went in the Titebond is hung in there. Let's keep going with this and just see how much it takes to break the Titebond. Geez, alright, we're still going. Well, that is impressive, especially in an end grain application. Let's put 90 kilo on it and see what that does, eh? I don't expect it to hold. Oh my goodness me. I wouldn't have expected that. Well, that's the product there, Titebond 3. It's a full waterproof material, good for exterior and interior, and I'm just absolutely amazed how good that is. As I said, particularly on ingrain. I would have expected the resin to last an awful lot longer, but it just went straight up. This stuff here is still going. I'm going to see if I can crack it in two. I'll do a few jumps on it and see if we can break it. Oh jeez. Oh, finally. Well, I'll tell you what, that is amazing stuff. So we know what we're going to be using on the end grain, and we know what we're going to be using to lock the studs in. So, look, not a real, not an experiment that's got a lot of weight to it, I guess, but gives you a bit of an idea the difference between the two. All right, let's go ahead and we'll start getting this post into place and get the job finished off. Alright guys, we've completed the rework on the second post, so that's the two posts now complete, and I'm really wrapped with how that came up as well. That's you can see the join down there, but it ended up very flat and square. A little bit of work with the grinder with the flapper disc, but it came out beautifully. And the handrail is now dead straight, as opposed to before it had that horrible bow on it that looked really unsightly. Alright guys, well, we've done the second post, and that's come up just as good as the first post. So we've got those stainless steel all thread dowels in place that we've locked in with the fiberglass resin, and then we've used the Titebond on the end grain. And once again, that's as solid as a rock. That's not going. The handrail is now dead straight. I can put my eye on at one edge and look down, and there's not a buckle in it, so I'm really happy with that. That's come up very well. And look, I guess the posts aren't going to be as strong as what they were originally, but with those dowel sets locked into place, they're going to be pretty good. I can't see that that ever moving. That's in there for keeps. Right, let's have a look at why I took the material off the bottom of the posts and not off the top of the post, which would have been an awful lot easier. And the reason is that I've got these holes through here evenly spaced to run stainless steel wire through, and if I'd taken my 5mm off here and my 16mm off here, looking at those wires, they would have been coming up at an angle in relation to the top handrail, and it wouldn't have looked very nice. From a distance it would have looked shocking actually. So I wanted to do the job right. There will be a little discrepancy on the bottom, but I can do some things to fudge that, so it will look spot on when those stainless steel wires come through. So, as I said, I built this veranda about 10 years ago, and it was within the first year that post listed. So I've been looking at it ever since. And it's been one of those things that have been irking at me. So in the new year, I will get the stainless steel wires put through finally and get that tidied up. Last job to do is to get all the boards back in, and that will hide everything that we've done in here. You won't even know that that's been done, that those posts have been shortened up to accommodate for that bow that we have. Alright guys, well I can get my veranda back where it should be, with all the barbie and the table and the chairs and all the gear that goes with it, all the games, so we can get that ready for Christmas when we've got lots of family and friends coming over. So really looking forward to that. Alright, I wish you all a very good Christmas and a fantastic new year. I'll be back in the new year with some more videos. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get those patterns finished off and make a start on that casting. So I'm just waiting for some materials that I've ordered about 4 weeks ago, and it still hasn't arrived yet. So as soon as that comes in, we can start looking at how we're going to go about getting the sand prepared. All right, guys. Well, as I said, have a great Christmas and a great New Year, and we'll see you soon.